All right. Tracy, you're up. Marianne, you're on deck. But, Tracy, you ready with the song?
Yes, we'll try this. This is Whitney Cole Novotny, and we'll just do the first verse of singing You'll Never Walk Alone.
Cole Novotny. I've been so blessed to be on the stage at the Wing for Matilda last summer as Mrs. Wormwood, in Sweeney Todd, and in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Just missing you all, missing the stage, missing community. This is not an easy time for anyone. It's very therapeutic to sing for me, and wanted to share this song with you, that you will never walk alone and that together we are better. And so hope you'll find some strength and comfort in the song, and remember just to keep moving forward, and we'll get through this storm. Walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and a sweet silver song of love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone.
Just did the first little verse there.
Excellent. I would say that our online music skills are much improved. Secretary's Minute. Marianne, are you ready?
Damn. I don't know what you're eating, but it looks good.
Fresh baked cookie?
I don't have any makeups per se to announce, but I do have a couple of letters that have come in response to our giving. We have one from Valley Hope Counseling Service, and they are full-page letters. I won't read them, but all of them have been quite thankful that we were able to help them financially in this time, and it will be put to good use, and they're just extremely grateful for it. The other one is Valley Program for Aging. They also have sent a letter. There is a letter from Warm that actually was for the $500 that was in our budget this year, and we gave it to them at the last meeting we had in March. And it was, again, the warmest thankfulness that we've given this. We have since given them another $5,000, as you know, out of what has just come in. Those are what I have. The only other thing I have to say is I'm back on my soapbox. I hope that you received a letter from me yesterday. Gear post, I had to reattach it. It didn't attach the first time. Also, I sent to you the sign-up sheet. You know, we got a new year coming, and we really need to get in place. And hopefully with the new year, July 1, it'll be a whole different scenario. But to keep the Rotary Club advancing and ready for it, I really need for everyone to let me know. And all you have to do is just send me an email. And the original, yesterday, I sent you a copy of the committees. Please let me know. Just email me and tell me what you want. You do not have to download that copy and printed or anything, just let me know. Really would appreciate it. And I'm sure Rebecca would be more than happy to have that. So thank you, Larry.
My pleasure. Thank you. And to reinforce that, nobody knows what the next 5 or 10 months is going to look like for us. But I will say that the plan is to slow down, not stop. There's a good chance that the committee work will still be done and that the weekly meetings will look something more like this. And the board, we haven't missed a day. So get those assignments to Mary Ann, and so we can continue the good work that we're doing with some sense of transition and normalcy. All right. The only announcement I have is that we have received a grant for $1,400 from district. Rebecca Shin applied and was awarded, and that's going to go to the YMCA and the WARM and their partnership to provide meals for the people experiencing homelessness right now, and in continuation of what we've already done. And since our money was getting ready to run out, this is right on time. So congratulations to Rebecca for getting that done. All right, today's program, Mr. Dan Layman, the chairman of the Community Foundation. A lot of you know Dan already, is somebody that runs the Community Foundation and collects money and does good things with it, like an investment in a benevolent philanthropist kind of way. But in this moment, the Community Foundation has figured out how to come together and collect a lot of different resources and put them across the community. And if that wasn't enough, it was the organization of all the different organizations in our community to kind of make sure that those efforts had some sense of coordination and accuracy of where the needs are. And he certainly helped us and the board of directors and the board of trustees shape our gifts and to recognize where the needs were. And everybody needed something, but where was the help that, or where was the people where no help was coming? And so Dan, on the behalf of the club, thank you very much for that help. And we're looking forward to hearing more about what the Community Foundation is and like now and how you're set up now. And then where's the leading edge in our community and needs right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Lane.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lowry, for the kind introduction, and good to see everybody. I'm so happy to see so many faces. Really, the only faces I've seen recently has been my wife and our cats, and so it's good to see other smiles too. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
I can.
Okay, super.
Yeah, lots of nods.
Super. And so these are very interesting times that we're in, and ever since we launched our COVID-19 local response fund in mid-March, it has been nonstop for us. I liken it to jumping out of an airplane and sewing your parachute on the way down. I think these times call for us not to hesitate in the slightest. The community needs us, and we need to be there, and we need to act quickly. Thankfully, we had a very good model to work from since our country's first outbreak took place in Washington State. We were able to turn to the Seattle Foundation, which is their area community foundation. They had to act much faster than other communities, and one of the important lessons we learned from them is that you cannot go it alone. And they quickly formed a cross-sector coalition, which was one of our first steps, and that has served us extremely well in this process. And it's been one of 4 things that I attribute to the success of this effort so far. The others include not just our coalition that's guiding our work, but the many other coalitions that around special interests in the community. So one of the first conversations I had around that was with Jeff Fife, and he quickly formed a coalition around the needs of youth in the community, and that work has expanded. There's coalition around other topics, and we intersect with each one of those. So as they're doing their concentrated work, we're gathering inputs and information from them that are helping us make decisions. And we've also relied heavily on the input from all the nonprofit organizations. So we've been sending out a series of surveys to collect that information. They're very brief. The third one just went out end of last week, and we have about 50 responses to that so far that are guiding the next phase of our work, and we'll continue that process. And of course, we couldn't do this without our donors because we're doing this almost entirely with new money. And so far, we've been very fortunate to have received just shy of $350,000, of which we have already put $300,000 back into the community as we continue to raise money and continue to get grants out to where they're needed. And the first survey that we sent to the nonprofit sector was to help us understand what are the most urgent needs, where are the gaps that we need to help fill. And as you might expect, it was around a lot of basic necessities. So there weren't many surprises, but there were some. Certainly there was a need for us to fill a gap in funding to meet the immediate surge in the demand for food. So we partnered with the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank and others to make sure that they could get the resources that they needed, purchase the food, get the food packaged, develop a new model for distribution, and get that out to all their distribution sites, and to fill that need until the additional federal aid was coming in to help them keep up with that demand. And so that was an important accomplishment right away. I would say the one area where we have made the biggest investment is in making sure that people could shelter themselves properly. And there's two components of that. There was an incredibly high need for rent assistance. As you can imagine, with soaring unemployment figures, a lot of people were finding themselves struggling to pay rent. And even though with the courts being shut down, there were no new eviction cases, it was important for people to be able to keep up with that so that they didn't get 2-3 months down the road only to find that they had amassed a huge amount of debt that they were not going to be able to address. So we partnered with the 2 Salvation Army units in Stanton and Waynesboro to continue to infuse capital into their rent assistance programs. In addition to that, we knew that we needed to do something to address our homeless and unsheltered population in the community. As you might imagine, at the Valley Mission, at that time, they had about 70 to 75 residents within that building. And in very close quarters, during the day, they would leave the mission, go to different locations, come back, and that was just a recipe for a virus outbreak. And so we partnered with the mission as well as with Mary Baldwin to move about 60% of their residents into an empty dormitory on the Mary Baldwin campus. That allowed the mission to properly distance the rest of their residents within the Valley Mission and keep everybody safe. And those residents are still living in Tolledge Hall. The mission has some staff living in the suites there to provide supervision, and they have been wonderful campus residents and neighbors for us. And so everything there is going very, very smoothly. And now they're just thinking through when is the appropriate time for them to move back or to hopefully find more permanent housing. We also partnered with Valley Community Services Board to fill the final gap, the final piece of the puzzle to address the needs of our unsheltered population. And by that, I mean the residents in our community who have been living in their vehicles, living in tent encampments in other places. Some HUD funds had come in to take care of a significant portion of that population, but we learned there were still about 20 individuals and families who were on the waiting list. And so we were able to get funds quickly to Valley Community Services Board so that they could begin to get them into supervised hotel rooms, have regular meals provided for them, and to do that for at least the next month. And then we'll reassess where we stand at the end of May, and if we need some additional funding to continue that into June. We also knew that there were a lot of residents who simply needed assistance with general financial expenses. And so we were getting grants to organizations that provide various levels of assistance for those types of financial obligations. Let's see. The other areas included, let me look at my list real quick. Certainly healthcare was a concern. Now, Augusta Health and their partners have done a great job around that. So where we focused our attention and our support as it relates to medical assistance is to make sure that Augusta Expo, which is the designated emergency site, is ready and able to serve it in that capacity should they be called upon. Thankfully, Augusta Health has not had to move any people there. But I think we felt it was important to make sure that they were set up and ready to go. The one surprise that we had, and in hindsight, it should not have been a surprise, that came out of our survey of the nonprofit sector. And this was the top concern expressed by all nonprofits, was the mental health needs of our community. Given the incredible stress that this situation is creating across the entire community, there was a great deal of concern that social isolation of our senior population, parents and in-home caretakers who did not have access to the additional care that they need, and for many other reasons, we wanted to make sure that people were not losing access to the mental health care that they needed. So we got grants out to a number of organizations, including Allen's, Valley Hope Counseling Center, Arrow Project, and others, to make sure that they were up and running with the telehealth model, that they were still able to offer their clients services on a sliding scale or free when needed, and that we could support the organizations working together to be thinking about the mental health needs of the community as we begin to emerge from this period of isolation, because we know there are going to be some widespread community needs, and those we need to be thinking through that and putting a plan together. And then, since there were a number of individuals considered to be essential workers through this period, we saw that a number of child care providers had needed to close, if even just temporary. And the Waynesboro YMCA was there and ready to ramp up a program to meet that need. So we partnered with them to support their ability to offer that on a sliding scale for essential workers in the community, and then to also begin to build their programming for the summer for children. And then the one other area, and this was a highly specialized area that we funded, was some targeted assistance for small businesses. This would normally not be within the realm of our grants, but we did have one of our corporate partners wanting to work with us to create some small business loan opportunities, and we were able to do that in partnership with Stanton Creative Community Fund. But also we saw the one significant need in Highland County, which we also serve, stemmed from a matter of timing. The county had been gearing up for the Highland Maple Festival. All of the vendors had made their deposits. The Chamber of Commerce had paid all the bills, and then the event had to be canceled. So all of the expenses were incurred and none of the income was there. And the vendors needed their deposits back, so the Chamber had to make that expense, and to fulfill that plan would have bankrupted their Chamber of Commerce, which is a mainstay in that county. So we were able to get a grant to them to make up that, so that the work of the chamber could move forward, and they could keep on track for planning future activities and economic development for the county. And so that, in a nutshell, encompasses what we were doing initially. When we got this going, we had no idea of how long this relief effort was going to take place. We had no idea of how it may shift in terms of needs. But as that became clearer for us, we could see that our relief effort was going to move through different phases. And so that first phase of work, we refer to as our triage phase. There were big needs at the macro level, and that's where we were to get our funds. We're now transitioning into the second phase of our relief effort, which we call our surgical phase. It's a much more strategic phase where we are engaging residents in the community to see who may be falling through the cracks, and for whom have the safety nets not worked. And so there's going to be two ways that we're going to get to that information. One of which is, again, through our nonprofit sector. And with our third survey that we put out last week, we've already been able to get really good information and identify some distinct constituents in the community that need specialized support. We're also putting together and finalizing a survey that's going to be made available to all community members. It'll be distributed at the food pickup sites by the public schools and other places where people are coming to access resources. It'll also go out via social media, through email. We'll partner with nonprofits to use their email databases as well, and to be hearing from residents directly about what's working for them, what isn't, where are they turning to for information and assistance. So we can begin to identify where we can have some more targeted grants during phase 2 of this relief effort. And just to give you a sample of what we're beginning to hear, we know that we'll be getting additional responses and more information coming in, but we're also learning that families with members of their household with intellectual and developmental disabilities have some specialized needs that really have not been met. That population needs regular physical and mental engagement, without which the progress that they have made begins to regress. And so we are in communication with the Arc of Augusta, with Creative Works Farms, and others, the guidance they're getting, what they're planning for, and there's some really good planning taking place, and some things that are just about to be launched, and we'll be able to be there to support that effort to make sure that they can offer that programming and that outreach. We're also hearing that in-home caregivers, so parents of special needs children, individuals who have their elderly parents living at home with them and they're caring for, they rely on a support system under normal circumstances that they can't access right now. And so we're looking at ways that we can provide them with some additional support that they need, and the occasional respite that's so valuable to them, so that they can manage their circumstances through this crisis. And we anticipated hearing this piece, because we're hearing this in the national news, that our migrant population does not have a good safety net during a crisis like this. And we're beginning to look at how we can go about addressing that. A lot of that is around making sure that good, reliable, trustworthy information is available for them, and that we're working through partners that they already trust. And then we'll get a better sense of what they may need in terms of grants to support them through this. And I'm sure as we begin to hear from residents directly, we'll have some other issues that we see that we can address with our grant support. The future phases of this relief effort that we see right now, and we realize this is a very fluid situation, is a third phase, which we're calling our post-op recovery phase. And we see this both for the community at large, as well as for the nonprofit community itself. And in terms of the community, we know that there are some unseen need issues taking place right now that we won't learn about until we emerge from this period of isolation. We know that we're going to be learning about more issues of domestic violence, child abuse, and other issues where we will need to be directing time and attention. We know that there are some issues that have been postponed that are going to hit once we get through this period. One of which, and we've been in conversation with Blue Ridge Legal Services about this, is that when the courts begin taking eviction cases and foreclosures and repossessions, all of the legal aid groups are anticipating just a tsunami of these cases. And we'll be partnering with them as well as the Salvation Armies and other groups to make sure that there's funding in place where we can help community members quickly resolve those situations so that we aren't having people forced out of their homes, losing the transportation that they rely upon to get to jobs, to earn money, to pay their bills, and other issues related to that. And then helping the community become whole again. And this goes to the mental health of the community and what we are going to need to really heal as a community as we come out of this crisis. And we have organizations that are partnering and talking through a strategic plan for that right now. And then in regards to the post-op recovery for nonprofit organizations, there's really two issues we're looking at. And this will be the topic of our next survey of the nonprofit organizations, is what is it going to take for them to reopen safely? And one thing that we're going to begin talking to the nonprofits about is, can we come to some agreement upon a very high level of standard for reopening, sign on to that, and then support it with the financial resources that are going to be needed. And so the community can have a high level of faith in their interaction with these organizations, coming together and gathering in places that they were used to before this crisis. And then a much bigger issue for the nonprofit community is going to be their financial health. So many of them have had to step up to serve the community in new ways through this crisis, all while foregoing their traditional opportunities for generating larger sums of contributed income, as well as their earned income opportunities. And so we're looking as a foundation of ways of freeing up additional funds where we can help the nonprofit sector heal quickly financially and get back on their feet and ready to serve the community after this. Then there's a fourth phase, this is
well, hang on. Don't forget to leave a little time for questions.
Yes. Okay. So I'll just mention this fourth phase, and then I'll pause there. The fourth phase, and this will be a long-term effort for us, is we have seen that once again when we hit a point of crisis, that there are certain members of our community who are affected the most, and they're affected in disproportionate numbers. Are chronically low income, our community members of color, and others have had a disproportionate impact, or felt disproportionate impact. And we see this one crisis after the next. And I think this is an opportunity where we have to commit ourselves to addressing that and not letting us get to yet another crisis without having made some headway there. So we're going to be committing ourselves to working across the community on that particular issue as well. So I'll pause there, and and see who has any questions.
Any questions? Hands in the air.
I have a comment, Lowry, if I could. If there is a Dauburn type of award like they do for education, excellence in education, if they did it for COVID-19 response, Dan Layman would be receiving that award for his mobilization and efforts and engagement. I can't, having seen at the grassroots level his work and his fast pivoting and mobilization of assessing needs and mobilizing resources to meet those needs has been nothing short of amazing. So Dan, just as many as applauses and virtual high fives as I can give for your work in the community foundations and all that they're doing. It's significant and impressive and quite humbling, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Jeff. And right back.
I got a question. You said you had about $350,000 in play now. Is the money coming from benevolence, or is the money coming from like non-for-profits? Like, is it coming from grants? Is it coming where's the money coming from?
This is coming almost entirely from individual community members. The fund was launched with a very generous $100,000 grant that one of our original board members made to us, and everything beyond that has been from gifts of $25 up through $25,000 from individuals.
Fantastic. Anybody else? All right. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Hey, Lowry, if I could just get my applause to your club for the grants that you decided to make. That, I think it was close to $30,000, and you shared that list with me. And every single one of those grants were just spot on in terms of what was needed right now. So thank you.
It's our pleasure. It's really nice because we get to do all these big projects all over the world and be a part of, like ending polio and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, we could do something right here, right now. And that was pretty humbling. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause? My only announcement is there were some technical glitches at the beginning of the meeting. We know what they were, and they've been fixed. And so I doubt that they'll come up again next week. Anything else? I'm looking for hands. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Oh, Frank, you got something? Lynn, can you put Frank up?
I do have a program speaker, David Ledbetter, lined up for next week.
Excellent. All right.
Frank, can you send me his email address so I can make sure he gets a proper invitation?
Will do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everyone. Stay safe, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.
All right.
And thank you, Dan.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Lowry. Thanks, Dan.